Guru Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namaste. This video is part of our efforts to reach out to people who cannot understand Dr. H.S. Sinha's original videos in Hindi. The content of those videos has been translated into simple English. It is not an exact transliteration, but translation of the whole content. This is offered as a tribute to the great teacher, scholar, and a great soul who introduced many of us to the world of philosophy. My salutations to Dr. H.S. Sinha, who not only preached but practiced philosophy until his last breath. Origin and Necessity of Religion, Part 2 by Dr. H.S. Sinha. According to Freud's psychoanalytic theory, the id is the primitive and instinctual part of the mind that contains sexual and aggressive drives and hidden memories. The superego operates as a moral conscience, and the ego is the realistic part that mediates between the desires of the id and the instructions of the superego. Man faces three types of anxieties arising out of the id, ego, and the superego. Libido is the primary and basic driving force for all animals, including man, which needs to be satisfied. The man tries to obtain maximum pleasure with minimum effort, which creates a certain type of anxiety in him. But when he elevates himself to become a social being, society imposes certain norms which are acceptable to the society. Man develops an anxiety to conform to the norms of the society and fears any kind of stigma since he is dependent on society for moral, emotional, and financial support. Lack of societal support causes anxiety, which is caused by the ego. The third anxiety is the moral anxiety, which arises when there is excessive moral conditioning. It is also often the cause of guilt. This is also the reason for many an obsessive compulsive disorder, which is called OCD, like washing the hands repeatedly, etc. Both superego and the ego keep fighting the id and try to keep it under check. The superego by itself is not strong enough to withstand the pressures of id and ego, due to which man has the need for an external force like God. So God is a force created by those who want to strengthen the superego, which also indicates that id and ego are stronger than the superego. Especially the id, which is otherwise called the sexual energy, tries to subdue the ego, which is always trying to seek the approval of society. But history and mythologies are full of stories in which the id has completely curbed the voices of ego and the superego, and we have seen many wise leaders and saints have fallen prey to the attacks of the id. Society has therefore created laws to channelize the libido of civilized man into creative activities. Indulging in physical sex leads to procreation or reproduction, while sublimation leads to creation. Since libido is a creative energy, it is also used for creation of beautiful pictures, erotic pictures, literature, arts, poetry, etc. These self-expressive arts are the creative manifestations of the libido which are acceptable to the society. Man satisfies his sexual instincts through these creations. When Eros becomes the supportive pillar of civilization, religion will not be necessary. Freud was of the opinion that God is an illusion and will fade away eventually. Thus, these three persons, namely Darwin, Karl Marx, and Freud, tried to end the myth called religion. Even in India, there were efforts to remove God, but one could not prevent creating a religion. These were people with a strong superego who didn't need any God to sustain their moral values. These two religions were Jainism and Buddhism, which are atheistic religions or which do not have a God. Their approach was to strengthen the superego through strict disciplinary conduct so that man is self-composed and does not need an external force to impose moral discipline. Between the two religions, Jainism imposed such a strict code of conduct because of which it was not a popular religion. Many countries in the world removed religion itself, while in India, efforts were made to remove God from religion. But God, being the benevolent father of the adventurous or the reckless sons, made a backdoor entry, though he was removed from the front door. The followers of Buddha, who could eventually not sustain the rigidities of the religion, created a god out of Buddha himself and started worshipping him. Similarly, Jains started worshipping Tirthankaras. This proved the point that there can be no religion without God. But the question remains whether society can exist without religion. Let's start the quest from India. There are many schools of thought in India without the concept of God. In Vaisheshika, a popular philosophy in which there is no mention of God. In the Mimamsa school of thought, there is no God, but there is a force called Apurva, which connects the cause and the effect. Mimamsa believes in cause and effect of karma or the actions, and hence acknowledged the presence of force which connects the two. In yoga also there is no God. We conducted a study to find out if there can be a godless dharma. The first and foremost feature of a religion or dharma is that it believes in a supernatural power, be it God or Apurva. In Sankhya school of thought, there is Purusha. The second area of focus was to find out if there is a path prescribed to reach the supernatural force, mostly in the form of rituals. For instance, in Hinduism, there are different yagnas or sacrifices made to appease certain deities, and in Islam, the exact way of offering namaz to Allah is prescribed. Thus, rituals have become an integral part of each religion. The third requirement is the cohesiveness amongst people towards attaining a common objective. Religion binds people and also people to God. To achieve this, certain social laws and moral laws are prescribed. These three features are the hallmarks of a religion. The next question that arises is, why should man believe in a supernatural power? This is mainly because of contingentia mundi. Mundane life is not governed by necessities. We cannot term anything as an absolute necessity. Hume has said that even rising of the sun is not a necessity. If some galaxy hits our sun, even sun will die and there won't be a sunrise. No one can say that such a thing will never happen. Referring to our own life, what is the guarantee for a person that he does not lose his balance between two steps because the ground may or may not be strong enough to support the second leg? Thus, life is full of such contingencies and not necessities. We are governed by constant fear due to these contingencies. We cannot assume the second step just because the ground was strong enough for the first step. Man takes the help of faith to overcome this fear. Logic does not help because it requires proof for each and every step, and life cannot go on with the help of logic alone. If a person eating a piece of roti falls sick because of some infection, he will not be able to take a second bite until he is assured that it does not cause him sickness again. This cannot be achieved through logic and reasoning. He can do it only on the basis of faith. Thus, even in the macro perspective, faith in a supernatural power helps man to get on with his life despite the contingentia. We can dispense with God only when everything is governed by necessity and there are no contingentia, or the logic is strong enough to offer explanation for everything in the world. As long as man is an imperfect being, he keeps searching for perfection which is often embodied in the God. In a world of imperfections, God alone is perceived as a perfect being. Man also feels secure with the faith that God is protecting him. It is also a fact that every human is unhappy for some reason. People who have wealth are unhappy for some reason and worried about safeguarding their wealth, while people who do not have wealth are unhappy because they don't have any wealth. All the unhappiness in the world is an outcome of the imperfections. As long as there are imperfections, man's constant pursuit of that which is perfect goes on. These imperfections and contingencies will never allow religion to exist. Walter Kohler commented that a day will come when Karl Marx and Lenin will remain only in books and nobody will remember these crusaders of revolt, but will always remember and worship Muhammad, Christ and Buddha with the same reverence as is being done today. Religion will survive as long as man is an imperfect being and there are contingencies of life. As stated by him, in Russia today, many ISKCON temples are being constructed, churches are being revived. Nietzsche also remarked that man will never take responsibility of his actions till God is alive. He therefore killed God on the crossroads of Germany. When this news reached Voltaire in France, he told people not to worry. He said, if Nietzsche has killed God, we will create a new God to give solace to the suffering humanity. Thus, history has shown us that religion will never die. There may be new wise leaders, but rituals will remain, albeit with few reforms. New paths to reach God may be discovered. Nothing in the world has the capability to unite people together but for religion. It is the greatest binding agent. Cohesiveness of the society is possible only with religion. Kindly post your feedback, comments and suggestions in the description box given below. Thank you.